We're back, fight fans of SiriusXM, Fight Nation, and Dazn, and we have friend to the room on the line, Mr. Showtime, Shawn Porter.
Welcome, my bro.
Yeah.
Well, hey, Shawn, what were before we got back on the air? We were talking behind the scenes, and did you get a call last minute for the Caleb Plant fight? Like, talk to me about what happened.
People were asking me, "Hey, you going out there for the fight?" I'm like, "No, I don't work Fox. I work FS1. It's the sports channel for Fox, but they leave Fox to the big boys, Joe Goosen and Lennox Lewis." And then I get a call. I'm like, I'm out with my family. We just picked up breakfast. I'm just about to go get my hair done, like just having a normal Saturday. And I get a call 9:45. It said, "Hey, Shawn, is it possible? Are you in Vegas?" I said, "Yeah." Is it possible you can get on a flight in about 2 hours? I said, "What's up?" They said, "We need you to come work tonight." I looked at my wife and boom, I made it happen. So yeah, the best part about that was kind of keep my eyes on boxing now because I have the podcast. So it's like I can't slip on this, and so it's like I keep my eyes on it, and so I knew what the car was like and all that kind of stuff. I had no prep time. They basically sent me all of the notes and things like that. I'm reading that on the flight and all that kind of stuff. And when I get there, I'm thinking to myself, I'm gonna get there. You know, I'm gonna throw my tie on, throw my I get there and they're going live, and so I'm basically walking into the stadium, throwing on my cufflinks and throwing on my tie and all that kind of stuff. And then when I get there, they're like, "Throw your headphones on. We'll figure out when to bring you in." I look at the ring and I'm like, "All right, let's do it." So it was amazing. It was cool.
You know, ironically enough, you're saying you got dressed walking into the arena. In my opinion, this is like one of your best dressed days. Like, you look clean, the suit looked good, and you didn't have too much time to prep for it.
So wifey knows me, right? So she hears the conversation. It's on in the car. When I hang up, the first thing she says to me, "Well, you better start thinking about what you're going to wear now, because by the time we get home, you won't have time to figure it out." She knows that I will stand in my room, come in and out of the closet 3 or 4 times before I pick an outfit, because sometimes I just don't know. And
I don't even believe that, Shawn. I think you're like a superhero, because look, you're talking, like, remember when Superman used to just run and just open up his suit? Out there showing the suit man. Shawn just come with the suit. Bow!
Everything is there and everything is ready. For me, it's just a matter of like putting it all together. And she said, the first thing she said to me is, "You better figure it out now, because you don't have time when you get home." I'll stand there like this, like looking at 40 suits. I've counted my suits. I got about 40. Looking at them like, which one do I want? And then I got about 100 shirts. Which one do I want? And I got 60 or 70 ties. Which one do I want? So
Shawn,
it was
one
too.
time.
My dad called me in the first. Well, I called my dad. First thing he said was, he said, "Hey, how'd it go tonight?" I said, "It went really good." He said, "I heard you look good." I was like, "That's the first thing you want to tell me, is that I look good?"
That's the most important.
Well, that's because sometimes, that's something with you, Shawn. People either go at you or they compliment you. So when they go at you, some comedians, they create a video about, like, one time when you wore those tassels, those red shoes with the red shoes with the red tassels and the red socks. Yeah. Now, what goes through your mind when people say those things? Are you like, "Oh, I'm fly and I know it," or what?
I'm telling you right now, like, ask me if I regret wearing that outfit. Ask me if I regret wearing those shoes. I don't. I'm sorry you didn't like it this week. Maybe next week we'll try again next week. I just don't care. I love my style. I love my suits, and I love having an opportunity to look good. So I don't trip when people are digging on me about what I'm wearing. If anything, I gave you something to talk about.
Right.
So
yeah. If they're talking about you, that's a good thing. Shawn, let's shift over to the fight now. We're aware that you guys have ties together with Larry Ray, strength and conditioning coach, friend to the room, hell of a dude. So you're going to be a little biased to Caleb Plant, right? But let's be honest, this weekend it wasn't an audition, because Canelo does want to fight Caleb to unify the division. But people were judging that fight. We're fighting a 37-year-old Truax who, is a decent journeyman. Went 12 rounds with him, looked good, beat him up. But how does that performance fare against what Canelo Alvarez did to Callum Smith, who most likely is a better fighter than Caleb Truax? Give me your take on that.
We recorded the podcast last night, and it'll air on Tuesday. We had Kendall Gill on this week, And it's funny, like even Kendall, I said it's crazy how this dude had a dominating performance, but we're still talking about him as if it didn't happen the way that it happened. But you take a look at the landscape. You got a guy that's 37, a guy who's coming off of an injury, had an Achilles injury, hasn't been in the ring in 2 years. I mean, the list just goes on from there. And you're saying you're Caleb Plant, take care of this guy. It didn't happen. I'm not let down by the performance. I'm not mad at the performance. I thought he did great. I just thought that he could do more. And if we want to turn lemons into lemonade, what you say is this dude didn't scare off anybody. He didn't scare off Canelo Alvarez. He didn't scare off Benavidez. He still has fights in the future. You take a look at me losing to Errol Spence Jr., but looking as good as I did, nobody wants to get in the ring with me, you know? So I think the best part about it is that he still has some room to grow. I think a lot of people are still doubting him, which works to his advantage because me knowing him personally, you don't want to doubt Caleb Plant because you'll get surprised. And I think that he left room for himself to have fights in the future where, you know, if he had looked brilliant, other people may have shied away from the fight.
Oh, you think we're judging him a little too harshly though? Think about it, because he won every single round on the judges' scorecards. He said he hurt his hand. You've hurt your hand against Granados, you know, so you know what it's like. And I mean, he didn't get the knockout, but you know, sometimes it's like people expected you to knock out Sebastian Formella, but hello, the guy's tough. That's something we didn't know. So if he didn't get the knockout, does that mean that he didn't do well, you know, even though he won every single round?
You also got, again, you have to take a look at the opponent, the challenger. Caleb Truax he's no stranger to the professional boxing game. If anything, he knows how to survive. He's got grit and he's got determination. So, I mean, those are internally, you could beat somebody physically, but internally, if you can't beat somebody internally, they're always going to be there. They're always going to be around. So I knew going in that Caleb Truax was, even though he was going to be a dog that was going to be getting hit with everything, I knew he was going to be a dog that was going to stay alive, you know? So you have to take into account that he's fighting Caleb Truax, a guy who was a former champion and the guy who knows how to get around in the ring and, if anything, survive. Now, with saying that, we didn't see Caleb Plant really give him anything to have to survive against. And I think that when you see that, that's when you're like, all right, I didn't see enough from Caleb Plant, but I do think that it was a dominating performance, and I thought he looked great.
For those just joining us, Shawn Porter on the line with us. Yeah, with all that being said, at the end of the day, I want your true, honest opinion on whether it's that performance, whether he can look better in the future. I mean, I think about what does Canelo Alvarez do against a Caleb Truax if they were to fight. Does that fight go the distance? I don't see that happening, right? So how does this Caleb Plant fare against Canelo Alvarez if they were to fight in May?
If they were to fight in May, I'm assuming right now that Caleb needs more time. He said he hurt his hand. I believe that. I felt like even the pace that he was fighting at and the strategy that he was using early on in the fight, that didn't carry through. At first, I assumed it was his conditioning and maybe the length of the fight. But in retrospect, I do think it was the injury that caused him to change his fighting style. Moving forward, I think the number one notable thing that we saw in that fight was an overhand right that he continued to get hit by Caleb Truax. Once Caleb Truax started to throw that punch, that's a punch that you cannot take from Canelo Alvarez. If you can take it once or twice, you can't take it consistently through the course of a fight like he did in the second half against Caleb Truax. I still think that he has the speed. I think that he has the power to fare with Canelo Alvarez, and the dudes still think that is a very great fight for both fighters. But I think if anything, we see that he still has some things to work on to get to the Canelo Alvarez level. It's one thing to fight somebody, but it's another thing to fight and beat somebody. Caleb Plant is the kind of guy that I would want to fight and beat Canelo Alvarez, and I'm sure you guys will probably maybe feel the same way. But I'm the kind of guy, like, if Caleb Plant's getting in the ring with Canelo, I'm expecting you to beat Canelo. I'm not expecting you to just get in the ring with Canelo. In order to do that, his power has got to improve, and his focus through the course of 12 rounds has to improve as well.